All right, welcome everybody. Today we have a special training live. I have with me Vincenzo Toscano, all the way from London. How are you, Vincenzo?
Doing awesome, Gary. How you doing? How's everything?
I'm I'm doing great. I'm doing great. I'm super excited for today. We got a really important topic that's super timely right now, all about Amazon DSP. Vincenzo, he for the first time, if you're meeting him for the first time, he works with a lot of large seven, eight figure brands, over 1,000 brands, scale successfully globally, and they've spent a lot of money on Amazon. They're tinkering a lot of stuff with DSP. So he's going to share you the latest insights about how to maximize DSP. Also, I know a lot of you guys have questions, PPC versus DSP. So he's going to give you side-by-side comparisons. And also, he has a
Fala,
very
Bruno.
exclusive
Ah,
brand
legal,
new
cara,
case study
beleza. Inclusive,
as
pelo que eu
well.
entendi,
So if you guys could please, if you're not speaking, to mute your mics to maintain the sound quality, that'd be great. Welcome, Vincenzo. Could you share with us who's this presentation for and why is it so important?
Yes. So first of all, Gary, thank you so much for having me. Pleasure to be here. And for all those who are also here, it's a pleasure, guys. And thank you for making some time throughout your busy day. And not being an Amazon seller is 24/7, so I appreciate you being here. And to answer your question, Gary, so DSP is something that I feel more and more sellers have to start considering, especially in 2025. And the reason is very simple. We see how Amazon is being pushing significantly towards more than being a search-based kind of platform, more towards kind of programmatic kind of advertising. Essentially, that's what Rufus is doing. It's trying to reverse engineer what the client is doing from the moment they engage with a specific type of product, what is the history within the platform. And based on that essential data, Amazon is giving you now the insights that you can use to essentially re-engage with that. And DSP is all about that. It's about the behavior of a client throughout the journey from top to bottom. And if you know how to master that, and on top of that, then leverage that with something called Amazon Marketing Cloud, I mean, the results are going to be mind-blowing. In fact, I have a case study I'm also going to share with you, which is all about to the point of how you can go from doing only PPC to then combine that with DSP to complete the full circle of the funnel and be able to really maximize your client and ensure that all the traffic is essentially not wasted. So that's it's going to be all about today's presentation. Yeah.
Perfect, perfect. And I know one of the biggest changes recently is with DSPs, the minimum ad spend, because the old method, I mean, you had to like spend what, like tens of thousands or even more on DSP,
Yes.
right? Like, what's the latest? I mean,
Yeah.
before we get into this.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be mindful that DSP, the reason why it has such I would say sometimes negative stigma to it is because it was very difficult to enter into DSP. We're talking that the minimum spend in the USA is 100,000 per month, and Europe near the 50K per month. So for a lot of people to have their own seat is pretty much difficult to achieve those kind of figures. Therefore, what started to happen is a lot of people started to do DSP, but the way they were doing DSP is through third-party solutions, which the downside of doing DSP through third-party solutions is that essentially the way DSP works is you as an advertiser, in this case an agency myself, or software, you have a seat directly with Amazon. Amazon give you access to the data and give you access to the different locations you can run ads within Amazon and outside of Amazon around the Amazon ecosystem, which I'm going to be covering. But the issue is that when you do it through a software, which is what most people are doing to get access without a seat, all this software is very limited. They give you like pre-made templates, it doesn't give you a lot of customization, and essentially it's kind of like a black box. And that's where people start to get negative results. Now, by having access to agencies like ourselves that we have direct access to Amazon with our own seat, we can start with as little as 5,000 per month. And the nice thing as well of having their own seat, as I just briefly said, is the level of customization. Like we can really go in depth in terms of understanding the consumer and effectively leveraging that data long term to maximize the return on your investment, which in a lot of cases we're seeing now is being better than traditional PPC, which is getting saturated. Yeah.
Excellent. All right. So before we get started, thank you everybody for joining us live. Vincenzo has a lot of stuff to cover, so we're gonna save the questions until the end. So if you have any questions, you can drop them in the chat, but we'll save them until the end, just so we, make sure we can cover everything if that's cool. Okay. And then secondly, before we get started, I'm just curious, is anyone already using DSP? If you are, can you type yes? If you're not, please type no, just so we can see where everybody is. And we saw
Yes.
there's many people RSVP'd. I know some of you guys are spending about 5K a month. Others are
Yeah.
spending like north of 50K. If you want, give us a ballpark. How much are you spending
Yeah.
per month? Just so we know where everybody is in the room. So that will help Vincenzo as well. Just, kind of
Yeah.
gauge where we are. Okay.
And also from
Um,
where you're connecting, so you also have an understanding of the room and where you guys from and all of that. That would
yeah,
be
yeah,
awesome.
for sure. Okay. Also, if you can let us know where you're joining us from. I'm in Tokyo. Ohio gozaimasu. It's like 6 a.m. over here. Vincenzo, you're in London, right?
I'm in London, yes. So yeah, here I'm based, but at the same time, always moving around. So I don't think it's gonna be for too long.
Yeah, yeah. So we're all over the world. So let me just see. Thanks, guys, for you joining us live. Um, so Josh says he's using DSP. Miguel, no. Ethan, no. Tim, no. Josh is from New York. Miguel from Portugal. Sheena from Dallas, Texas. So we got global audience, North America, Europe, Asia. All right. So without further ado, Vincenzo, would you like to share your screen and let's get this started?
Yes, let's get started. So, yes, guys, once again, welcome. And today I'm going to be able to, really walk you through all the things that you need to understand when it comes to DSP, starting with the foundation. What is the difference between DSP and PPC? Also understanding, what are some of the strategies, and also at the end of the day, why DSP can be the right thing for you in 2025 to scale your brand forward. Okay. So let's talk very quickly about myself. So my background, I'm actually an aerospace engineer. I jumped into the industry as a side hustle, start selling on Amazon, started to go very well. And then by go to different events and essentially interacting with people in this space, I discovered essentially my passion for consulting. And that's where Ecomcy was founded. It's been over 5 years now, and it was only myself at the beginning. And right now, essentially, it's a team of over 60 people. I also have a podcast, the e-commerce lab podcast, where I have some of the brightest minds like Gary in the space to talk about Amazon relatable things. And beyond my agency, I also do some investment within the industry regarding some software solution for Amazon sellers. So now, when it comes to the agency, just so you have a bit of understanding of why we are here and why we have the authority to tell you about how DSP can be used. Just as I briefly say, with a team of over 60 people, we have managed work with over 1,000 brands. We have a portfolio over 9 figures when it comes to Amazon, so a lot of experience when it comes to managing brands, and when it comes to spend, over 8 figures on spend. So we have seen everything under the sun when it comes to PPC and DSP. And hopefully with those learnings, I'm going to make sure that not only you understand what is the difference between DSP and PPC, but you can really maximize that US dollars. In 2025, it's all about profit. So we need to make sure that's what is the focus in terms of a strategic approach. Introduction to DSP, guys. So effectively, as I was saying at the beginning, and when Gary was making the question, what is DSP in brief terms? So essentially, the way DSP works is that allows you to essentially run ads beyond the Amazon ecosystem. So I'm sure some of you maybe have a presence outside of Amazon, and some of you have experience when it comes to things such as, for example, let's say Meta, let's say Google, right? And when you run ads on those platforms, usually what happens is the advertising sometimes go beyond the keyword search. It also focuses around specific kind of behavior on the platform itself. So for example, with Meta, if you guys that have experience with that kind of advertising, it's all about also about the kind of interactions within the platform in terms of what is the avatar looking like, in terms of past experiences, what they have bought in the past, what kind of lifestyle they have, the age, the gender, where are they located. With DSP, that's the beauty that makes a huge difference compared to PPC. Because when PPC and specifically sponsor ads, to make the difference even more easy to identify, is that it's all about keyword search, and within keyword search you also have ASINs, of course, which is targeting competition. So therefore, traditional sponsor ads is more towards the bottom of the funnel, which is people is already looking for that specific keyword. And therefore, the decision to make the purchase is already pretty much made up within their mind. Compared to DSP, that, for example, if you're selling like dog toys, right? You are more focusing, right, than for a person that's looking for a dog toy, more for the person that has a dog, or a person that has purchased food for dog, or a person that has an interest in terms of lifestyle of walking his dog. So you see the huge difference. It's more now about the behavior of the person, and that's why it can get very powerful. Which sometimes it can get creepy because you can be super, super detailed when it comes to the ads, and over time it gets to the point that you know for a fact every single dollar that you put in is going to tap into the right customers that's going to essentially convert the most for your type of products. The other thing with DSP that I like is the flexibility when it comes to creatives. So with DSP, effectively, you are able to tailor more essentially your message to different placement, different images across the different placements outside of Amazon, which is usually not the case with traditional sponsor ads. So you can already start to get a feeling in terms of what are some of the huge difference between DSP and sponsor ads. Now, here, essentially, I just wanted to put it a bit more in depth. So one of the other differences that you're going to encounter with traditional sponsor ads, which is different than DSP, is that another thing that you're going to encounter is when you start optimizing, for example, within traditional sponsor, you're going to encounter that usually the momentum is not something that is going to get exponential growth from overnight, right? Because with sponsor ads, it's all about the keyword search and then getting the momentum in terms of organic position, which is usually not the case with DSP, because with DSP, usually you're going to find that the beginning might be slow, but then suddenly overnight it start having spikes. And the reason why those spikes happen with DSP, which is not the case with traditional ads, is because once you nurture the audience very specific in terms of what kind of third-party website work the best when it comes to outside of Amazon, what kind of device, what kind of location. Like we have an example of a client that we now will figure out. He makes the most money, for example, in places such as California, such as New York. So now we can funnel all the ads on those locations, and the ROAS went through the roof. That's something that you will never be able to do with traditional ads. Now, within DSP, you have different type of ads, right? So usually the ones that have the biggest kind of interaction, of course, are the ones that have some correlation to the more visual aspect of it, because what you're going to encounter is with DSP, you can also run ads that use like a pre-embedded content from Amazon. Like for example, just as you encounter on sponsor ads that you put an ASIN and then it just shows essentially the main image and the title and the price of the product, just as the listing is essentially being built. In DSP, you also have that option, but that's where really you're dropping the ball with DSP, because with DSP, given that you have so much data regarding the consumer, you really want to drill down into the type of content that essentially show to the customer through a different essentially basis that they have to go through to make a purchase, right? So I'm going to give you an example. Let's say that, for example, you're a customer that is looking, or you have a lifestyle when it comes to liking dogs, like going back to the example. So if you are essentially a person that have a dog, the creatives have to be changing depending on the funnel, which I'm going to show you some pictures of what I mean by the funnel. Let's say you are on the consideration phase, right? Or even more in the consideration in the awareness phase. If you're a person that has essentially a dog, you most likely sometimes are not looking for a specific type of toy. So when you are within the awareness phase, it's all about showing creatives about how some specific dogs, which are essentially interacting with this product, are having a more fun time when it comes to walking on the park, right? And you start spiking the idea essentially on people's minds, like, oh, I actually have a dog, and I'm seeing all these dogs with these creators that are having fun with this toy. I don't need a dog. I don't need a toy for my dog, but I can see that this could be actually something meaningful for my dog. So that's where you start creating the whole funnel. You go now from awareness to consideration, and then within consideration, when they're still unsure about if the toy makes sense or not, you keep retargeting them, and then they become a loyal fan, which then we can go into more complex strategies, such as, upselling other products and things like that. This is a thing that you will never be able to do with traditional sponsor ads. Now, another thing that I love about essentially DSP is the amount of data that you get. I keep coming back to data because that's really what a DSP makes makes essentially stand out compared to traditional ads. Like if you're a person that likes data, which that's me, I'm an engineer by trade, so that's why I love DSP. Like you can get very, very geek when it comes to that. Like I'm telling you, you start identify patterns that these patterns sometimes are not only meaningful from an advertising point of view, but they're meaningful also in terms of your brand, because what we have sometimes figure out is throughout the journey of a customer when it comes to DSP. And then by embedding this data with Amazon Marketing Cloud, sometimes we come up with new product ideas, because sometimes the data is telling us based on interactions and based on where people is dropping it off throughout the funnel, that sometimes it's either a product issue, it's an offer issue, or sometimes a product that we're missing, and allows to essentially maximize the traffic that comes into our brand halo effect and keep them engaged with all the offers that we have to offer within our ecosystem. Now, another thing here that I wanted to make even more clear, because I know this question is the one that's going to keep coming back, is essentially the type of main difference between, when it comes to traditional search, in this case, a DSP. The main difference, guys, if you want me to say in one sentence, is that effectively traditional sponsor ads is all about keyword search, and the DSP is all about audiences, right? So just remember that. I know I'm going to be talking about more complex terms as we go along the webinar, but that's something that's why you have experts like us. You don't need to understand all the technicality, because trust me, it's going to take you a lot of time. And by the way, that's why a lot of people have bad experiences with DSP, because DSP, unfortunately, is not something like PPC that you can essentially have an intuition and figure out on your own. The reason for that is because with PPC, sometimes it's as simple as finding the right keywords, monitoring those keywords, and essentially, exact phrase and broad, which we all know. But with DSP, it goes so much deeper. It's essentially the whole funnel, and you need to start understanding things that go into more like re-engagement kind of strategies. How do I make sure I adjust my creatives along the journey? How do I make sure, based on certain KPIs, I'm actually tapping into the right audience at the right time? So it requires a lot of understanding, and the platform itself, if I'm honest with you, the Amazon kind of dashboard that they give you access to DSP is also very technical. So that's why I want to, throughout this webinar, like really make it as simple as possible to digest. That's why I'm not putting a lot of fancy graphs and everything, because if I do, I'm going to lose you. So I'm just trying to make it very easy for you to understand. To the point, what is DSP? What is the main difference, and why I need it? So here is
Vincenzo,
essentially.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah,
There was a comment. Josh asked if you could please
go on.
repeat that
Oh,
earlier
yes.
on the previous slide. I mean, from my
Let me see.
perspective, kind of like a layman Amazon seller, I feel the main difference, at least to me, correct me if I'm wrong, Vincenzo, traditional sponsored ads, it's all about keyword search. It's like,
Yeah,
bottom of the funnel. If you're selling like, dog chew toy, you're targeting like dog chew toy, right? Whereas DSP, it's kind of like more like what you're saying, like the top of the funnel. It's like a bigger
exactly.
audience, and you're targeting the audience. You're not, so it's like, top of the funnel, not bottom. So like could be like dog owner or like poodle
Mm-hmm.
owner, and like, different marketplaces. And the beauty of DSP is you get a lot more data about the audience, that you can retarget people, like past customers, or like, even, I don't know, like I'm sure Vincenzo's going to talk more. Maybe like, you can target like other big brand,
Yes.
shoppers, like, I don't know, like, whatever dog brand, right? I'm not a dog owner. So,
Yeah. In fact,
yeah,
that's why I wanted to put this image. I don't know if can you see that image in the screen?
perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that image actually, hopefully, Josh, this answer maybe the question that you wanted me to repeat. If not, please comment on the chat. So this essentially is as easy as possible when it comes to digesting it. Like this is essentially what a DSP does. So this is traditional ads. So you have, for example, sponsor products and sponsor brands, which is at the bottom of the funnel. So this is people that is already essentially, kind of convinced that they want to buy the product. So you're just tapping into that exact moment. But DSP allows you to go so much deeper. So just as the example that Gary was saying, like let's say, I'm gonna give you another example. You're somebody that are into fitness, right? And that's where, for example, with DSP, Amazon gives me 1P data. 1P data, for those that don't know what that means, is data that Amazon is collecting based on your behavior on the platform. That means based on what you have purchased in terms of historical purchases, how much money you spend, where you're based, every kind of interaction you do with a platform, Amazon takes all that data and create an audience. So for example, if you're a person that buys a lot of products that have to do with fitness, Amazon will give me an audience about people between 20 and 30 that is engaged with fitness products, right? And if I'm selling, let's say, a yoga product, maybe I don't want to tap too much into the yoga audience because maybe to some extent with traditional ads, I have figured out that I already to some extent control that category. But I want to tap more into fitness. Maybe people are within fitness and just getting started with yoga, but they're still not searching yoga relatable keywords. You're just trying to predict based on their lifestyle, right? So that's where DSP start nurturing. And then if you start nurturing with those kind of creatives, which is more maybe content that is tailored toward people just getting started with yoga, if you see within the data they're engaging with the content, they're going to your listing and they're browsing other competitors, that's where you start tapping into a contextual and retargeting. So that's essentially the main difference. You're trying to predict in advance based on certain behaviors of people within the platform and also historical data, how I can tap at the exact moment to then compare them into buying my product. Now, that's one case scenario, but the other case scenario could be as simple as retargeting, because with DSP, what we can do is people that has engaged effectively with my brand in the last 30 days, re-engage with them. People have seen my competitors in the last 30 days, re-engage with them. People is likely to do more subscribe and save, re-engage with them. People has used attribution links. That's another huge thing. Yeah, a lot of people don't know this, but DSP now allows you to re-engage people that has come through attribution links. Attribution links is essentially you use that to bring external traffic to Amazon. So imagine now you're running influencer campaigns. You're an influencer from TikTok, from Instagram, Facebook, that are using the attribution links. Now DSP allows me to create an audience, like all the people that has used my attribution links, re-engage with them, because most likely a lot of them haven't made a purchase. And then if I retarget them, I can convert them into a purchase. So you start to see the extra layer of complexity that DSP allows you to bring to a table, which if you know how to maximize, I mean, the sky is the limit. Now, here, of course, just some quick breakdowns. So, I mean, the main difference, guys, programmatic advertising is data-driven. That I keep coming back to that because that's the main differentiator. It's all about data. And the reason why also is very important for me to keep mentioning this is the timeline associated with DSP. A lot of people might consider that with DSP is something that I put it on right now, and in 1 week I'm going to see results. Usually it needs enough data in the system for you to start identifying patterns, like certain behaviors start to be repetitive. And once your behaviors start to become repetitive over time, essentially what that is going to allow you to do is, okay, this pattern is happening over and over, this kind of engagement, this kind of traffic in terms of this specific demographic or lifestyle, and that's where you start ramping up, right? That's why effectively for many years DSP requires so much ad spend, because what happened is that if you didn't put enough data into the system, Amazon wouldn't be smart enough to essentially come to a conclusion, or even you, that certain kind of paths in terms of how the customer is behaving is the one that's the most profitable. But now with things such as Amazon Marketing Cloud and more refinements that Amazon has put in play, now effectively with a lower budget, you can essentially also get a return on investment, right? Another question I get a lot, guys, is the type of audiences. So just to break it down very quickly for you, you get the market audiences. So these are audiences that Amazon essentially sometimes buy as well. Like when I say buys, you have 1P data that could be based on retailer, based on offline interactions that Amazon then put in DSP so you can engage with them, lifestyle, demographics such as location, gender, how much money they make, and remarketing, which is engagement within your current listing. So those are the main kind of audience. Now, when it comes to effectively another thing that I like with DSP is that DSP compared to traditional ads allows you to follow customer from top to bottom. So from the moment a person sees or interacts with a DSP ad, I can attribute that all the way to the purchase. So imagine the power of that. Like we have a lot of cases now where we start to see a big correlation into a DSP interaction with a sponsor ad interaction, and then to an organic ad organic presence interaction, and then to purchase. Or sometimes it could be vice versa. It could be sponsor then DSP interaction, and then purchase. So once you start identifying essentially all the touch points, you're gonna see that sometimes for my brand, I need 3 touch points. We have brands that, for example, supplements, we need 7 to 10 touch points. We have our brands that the price is very expensive. You might need 15 to 20 touch points. So you start identifying how many times my avatar has to see the product in their screen or click on it to essentially make a purchase. And over time, you're gonna find patterns. And once you find those patterns, you can exploit them and essentially have a huge return on investment, which is something that, as I say, with traditional ads, you cannot have those kind of insights, right? Like a sponsor ads don't get smarter over time. It's just the keywords that you're targeting, and that's it. Here's a very quick workflow in terms of how usually DSP works. It's like, it's all at the end of the day, to summarize it as well, to also make it easy for you. It's about audiences. We have to tap into audiences, what kind of essential budget we want to go when it comes to these audiences, the creatives, I'm going to give you a quick tip here. A lot of times, the other reason why DSP fails is because the creatives that are using DSP are very generic. So you cannot use the same video or the same image within a DSP ad across different journey of the customer, which is what I just mentioned. That's why a lot of people what end up doing, they just use generic content. They don't tailor the content based on, for example, seasonality, such as Christmas or such as Valentine's Days, or such as specific things that reflect essentially a different way of representing the message behind why you should buy this product, and the conversion significantly drops. And that's why we use artificial intelligence. We use, for example, a process where we grab all the competitor data, like reviews, questions. We also get our own data. We put all that into custom ChatGPTs. Custom ChatGPTs, for those that don't know, is essentially within ChatGPT, you can create a hub that analyzes data that you grab from different sources. It could be from you, it could be from your competitors. You put it all under the same roof. And then what we do, once we have the information about all our competitor, we start asking questions to essentially ChatGPT, such as, give me a specific creatives that I can put into a DSP campaign based on this specific a specific point throughout the journey. So now we can customize the creative based on understanding of the customer, and that significantly changes the performance that we can get. It's huge. Now here is just a breakdown when it comes to the journey. And by the way, for those all here watching, please do make sure you drop your questions. Like if there is something that maybe you don't understand or it feels too overwhelming, that's the goal of this webinar. I give you an introduction, but then I'm going to go so much more in depth. Even if you have specific cases that you want to bring forward, for those that are already doing DSP, bring it forward, and more than happy to then dissect it with you. Okay. Now, another thing that I would say, just to go back a little bit when it comes to DSP, is another thing that you're gonna find with DSP is that the added benefit of nurturing the ads over time is that the audiences start to become very, very effectively profitable once you really drill down into the audience. Because what you're gonna find with different essentially audiences is that usually you're gonna eventually find the winner one, and then you can create customer-like audiences just as you do with Meta. So essentially what that means, for those that don't know what is a customer-like audience, if you identify that usually people between 20 and 30, a female located into Florida, that like a lifestyle of yoga, and then usually they have a favorite TV show, and I mean you can go as deep as that. They constantly buy from you. You can create customer-like audience, which is same to almost every single person that has certain similarity to this avatar, retargeted, and that's where the momentum really goes very far when it comes to scaling a DSP. So I'm having a question here. Yes, so essentially it will be for CPM. So yeah, it's not based on click. Yeah, it's based for CPM. And again,
sorry. Yeah, let me just read the question. So the question is from Ethan: is the DSP spend based on a click basis or a VCPM basis?
Yeah. It's for a CPM basis. Yeah, it's not based on click.
Okay, so that's cost per 1,000, right? For those people not familiar.
Correct.
Okay, so it's not like CPC is not cost per click. It's based on the number of impressions, right?
Exactly.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
Yeah. No worries. Now, another thing that I love about DSP is essentially also the things that is allowing us to really tap into when it comes to running ads. So something that I'm seeing, and this is a big trend, programmatic advertising is the next thing. The reason why is the next thing is when it comes to AI, especially on platforms such as Amazon, it's all about understanding the consumer from top to bottom. And once we fully understand what the customer is doing from the moment they wake up to the moment they essentially go to sleep, we can re-engage with them at different essentially location throughout their day. So that means when it comes to Alexa, which we can run ads on Alexa, that means throughout different devices or different websites that Amazon owns, like this is newspaper, this is Twitch, this is Amazon Prime, um, like Whole Foods, like all these different essentially third-party placement that Amazon owns or has a unique partnership with them so they can show DSP ads. So effectively, that's where Amazon is really going. It's making sure that now the experience doesn't stay only within Amazon, goes beyond Amazon. And that's why you need to start tapping into this, right? Because if you don't understand this and your competition is doing it, which trust me, I see that many times when I do audits, that's where sales start getting a big hit because a lot of time I have calls with my clients or people that want to do DSP, and we start having a breakdown of what is happening. My PPC is always top of search. My organic is strong, but my competition is doing so many more sales than me, right? And usually when we start dissecting, is sometimes they're doing DSP. Essentially, what they're doing is they're following the customer outside of Amazon, which you're not. They're engaging with them effectively through the whole funnel, which you're not. You're only engaging with them at the bottom of the funnel. And over time, if they do that consistently and efficiently with all the strategies, they're gonna eat into your market share like never before. Because it's all about that. It's about repetition, touch point, touch point, touch point. If the competition does that and they touch with your client every single moment they wake, from the moment they wake up to the moment they go to sleep, but you only touch with them only when they're doing a search on Amazon, what do you think is gonna happen weeks, months down the line? The customer eventually is going to try that other product and you're going to lose the sell, and that's where the market share gets a huge shift from going you've been the bestseller now for the new guy taking the spot, which we see that a lot. In fact, with DSP, a lot of things we are seeing, which I was actually very surprised to see this. We're seeing a huge correlation when from the moment we start running DSP to getting the bestseller batch. Like it does happen consistently on a lot of our case studies. And I think the reason why that's happening is because Amazon now is also taking in consideration the fact that when you start running these ads outside of the platform, which is essentially what DSP does, they actually also track in terms of when this traffic, when these clients interact within Amazon and outside of Amazon, how highly they're converting compared to your competition that's only doing traditional ads. So that's why I'm saying it's important. It goes beyond awareness. It's affecting budgets, it's affecting ranking, it's affecting market share control, and that's essentially what makes profit at the end of the day, right? Now, of course, this is a quick case study, but I'm going to show you one in more depth once we finish this presentation. Like in this specific case, we have an electronic brand, and this electronic brand, they were really struggling to tap into the market because electronic is super competitive. Like CPC on this specific line was like $7 to $8 per click. We will never be able to be profitable with PPC. But what we did with DSP, we start tapping into our competition. We start engaging with people that search our competition, essentially product pages. People that has a certain interest with essentially the activity that has to do with the electronic. Also making sure that based on a DSP, we created audiences based on also data that we had outside of Amazon because they run ads on their website in terms of what is the right age and all the different demographics. And when we start doing that, which a lot of our competitors are not doing, because be mindful, DSP, you might have the perception that a lot of people are doing it, but the reason why a lot of people don't do it is because it's difficult and people still think what I just said at the beginning of this presentation, which is that you need 100K per month to run DSP. And that's not the case anymore. Like there is this huge gap in knowledge in the market right now that people think this DSP is a unicorn, that you have to be Apple to use it. And that's not true. You can use it by being a medium a brand. Like as soon as you start spending 40 to 50,000 per month on traditional sponsor ads, DSP is already something to explore. So that's why I want to proactively put this content out there, like because I see all the time these big brands using DSP, and attacking the small seller, and the small seller thinking that they cannot use DSP to defend themselves, which in reality you can. Right? Now, when it comes to best practices, of course, I mentioned that one of the most important things is seasonality, like making sure you create this adjust throughout different periods, making sure as well the audience is expanded over time. So this is the most important thing. Audiences are going to shift throughout the journey of running DSP, and the most important thing is that you keep them essentially always targeting the audience that is showing the biggest ROAS, and be very proactive, because if you're not proactive, which goes down to continuous optimization, it can also become profitable very fast, because DSP has such a big broad spectrum of reach that if you're not methodical, it can get very expensive very fast, which is why a lot of people get burned. They don't know how to do DSP. They want to do it themselves because they don't want to pay anybody, and they have the bad experience, right? Now here, of course, just to give you a little bit what a success look like. So these are usually the case, the different discussion we have with clients. Sometimes it's about viewing, like for example, if you work with brands such as Disney, like the strategy is all about impression. They don't care about profit. But if it's a brand, for example, like a supplement, it's all about new to brand. It's about captivating subscribers. Or for example, it's a brand that only sell a product once, which is, I don't know, like TVs. It's all about a return on investment. But if it's a brand that, for example, has a ton of traffic, but usually conversion is very low, such as clothing, it's about conversion. So you can see how you can tap into different goals depending on the type of brand. Integration is also very straightforward in the sense of how this can embedded with sponsor ads. Like a lot of people think that if you run one, you can run the other. In reality, to get the best outcome, you have to control all of them. You have to essentially have your normal PPC running, and DSP is there to cover the spectrum that traditional ads cannot cover. It's not there to replace traditional ads. Here, a little bit of how we're using AI. I just briefly touched on that, but I'm going to mention it again. We use AI to custom tailor or create throughout the journey for the customer. So we make sure DSP is very intentional. And on top of that, we also get insights from ChatGPT in terms of audiences that could work very well for us based on the data that we have. So we can start DSP essentially hitting the ground running, because we know based on AI analysis that the best audiences that potentially could be the best return on investment in terms of how we run the ads on top of them will be this specific lifestyle, this specific location.
Vincenzo,
Yes.
sorry to interrupt. Quick question. Ethan asks, what's the minimal ad spend to get DSP to work?
5,000 is already a good amount.
5,000. Okay. So that's significantly lower than 100K. I mean, that was before.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's why I say 40 to 50K is sponsor, because if you're doing usually it's 10% of sponsor. That's why I recommend it. So 50K is 5,000. So that's why I recommend as a rule of thumb. Okay.
So kind of like the proportion, like how should you balance sponsored ads versus DSP? So you said like $10.
10% of what you spend on sponsor. So
10% overall.
50,000 on sponsor ads will be 5,000. Yeah, 5 to 10%, but at least 10% I recommend it. So 10% of 50, yeah, it would be the 5.
Okay. And just to keep our eye on the clock, we have about 20 minutes left, Vincenzo. Yeah. And I'd like to just pause for a second just to take a quick temperature gauge for those of you joining live. How are you understanding this DSP so far? If it's crystal clear, type in 1. Yeah. If you somewhat get it, type in 2. And if you're lost, type in 3. Okay, just so we know where everybody is. Okay, so please take 1 second to do that while Vincenzo gets ready. I know you got a case study as well, right? Yeah. Okay. Russ says 3. He's lost. Miguel's 2. Nighthome.
Russ, we got you.
Yeah, we got you. Nighthome is 1. Hilder is 2. Erica is 1. Josh is 2. Josh asks a quick question. Do you feel DSP is more helpful to use on your own website, or can also work for Amazon, meaning serving the ads or other sites to bring traffic to Amazon? Is that helpful?
So, I mean, just to quickly tell me to Josh, for this, you need a bigger budget because it's an invitation only program. But me as a partner agency, I can get you into that. There's a new type of DSP that now we can run traffic from Amazon to your website. So yeah, you heard right. Amazon is allowing you to steal the traffic from Amazon and taking it to your website. The only thing with that is that's why I usually don't mention it, but you have to commit 50,000 per month. If you commit 50,000 per month, Amazon allows you to show ads within Amazon that if people click, it will go to your website. So that's something that's kind of a hidden secret that some brands use. Like if you want to really explore your brand on your website, you can do that, Josh. But for most of the time, when you run DSP, it's within Amazon ecosystem and third-party websites. So you're gonna run ads on your own website. Like you cannot do DSP on your website.
Okay.
I didn't know if I was allowed to ask a question like this. Is that appropriate or is that not okay?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Go
So
ahead.
no, so sorry. So I was basically just asking, as far as my understanding of DSP, let's say, like using your dog toy example, and you are an Amazon seller, and you're going to serve the ad on ESPN.com or whatever, some other website.
Yeah,
So when you serve the ad on another website, if it's your own website, let's say it's dogtoys.com,
yeah,
then the seller, excuse me, the person that you're going to serve the ad to is going to think that you're in the business, you're selling dog toys, you have a website, you're, whatever on your own platform. If you're doing it on Amazon.com, again, I'm sure you're an expert, so you could probably answer the question a little bit more than what I'm asking, but do you feel that the experience is the same if you're serving the ad and it's going to your own to an Amazon site versus your own website? That was basically my question.
yeah. So, I mean, the first thing is that just to make a point, like because you keep mentioning my website, like when you run DSP, you cannot select a specific website, like I want to my domain, right? So most likely, what is gonna happen if you're selling dog toys, your ads might show on a blog that these are the top dog toys in the space, and your ads might show throughout the different essentially web experience. And if they click, they go to Amazon. So at all time on the ad, and in fact, then I'm going to show you some examples on the screen. They will see that that ad goes to Amazon because it showed the Amazon logo, it showed the reviews, it showed the price. So it's always very transparent that those ads are served from Amazon spectrum. So the customer always know that if they click, they will go to Amazon, right? And these ads are essentially meant for people that's just having an experience out of Amazon. And you might show your ad that if they click, they will essentially be taken to your listing. It's not really meant to drive people to your website. You see what I mean?
Excellent.
Okay.
Just to keep our eye on the clock, if you guys have
Yeah.
any questions, Vincenzo has actually offered a free mini audit of your brand. If you want to learn more about the potential audience size for DSP, for your brand, and also like how big your audience is with DSP, he actually offered a free mini audit call. So I just put that link in the chat. Feel free to book that call just so we have enough time to get through everything for today, if that's cool. All right. So Vincenzo, back
Yeah.
to you.
Yeah, so now what I want to do as well is I want to essentially show you some case study here very quickly. Okay, so you know effectively some of the results we've been getting here. So let me just put this on the screen. Okay. And then I'm going to show you some visual examples as well. So as you can see here, this is a kitchen brand, right? So we start running a DSP. And effectively, one of the things that we're really struggling with this kitchen brand is the same. The CPC was very kind of difficult to compete with because it was very high. So essentially, by just using 1/10 of the monthly spend on PPC, so it's spending 10 times less, we managed to increase ROAS by 3%, and we increased sales by 250K. So how do we manage to do that? Because it was all about re-engaging customers that essentially were getting lost by the single interaction through PPC. And then by also making sure we tap into different placements that our competition, when we found that loophole, they were not doing this DSP. All of them were doing for traditional kitchen relatable keywords that the CPC was super expensive. In fact, here you can see how just within 4 to 5 months period, we went from ROAS of 1 to a ROAS of 4.5. So this is we see that a lot in the industry. There's a lot of categories that people competition is not running a DSP, and essentially what we are leveraging is that we tap into those placements that our competition is not using. And just as ads, the same with DSP. If less people is bidding for those audiences that placement, essentially you end up paying a much cheaper traffic, right? We also focus significantly on YouTube brands. That's another thing I recommend everybody to focus on with DSP if your goal is to eat into market share, because YouTube brand metrics means this is people has never seen your product. So 65% of people that bought on DSP never saw a product before. So that answers the question for a lot of people. Oh, how do I make sure DSP doesn't overlap with PPC? These 65% people that if I didn't do DSP, they would have never found my product in the first place. So that's the power of DSP. And as I said, the goal was we achieved #1 in the category. We got the best batch. And essentially with DSP now, we keep dominating our competitors. I see the competitors, they're spending a lot of money on top of the search because now they're struggling. How these guys having the best batch and everything. But secret weapon is DSP. And now, it's too late because now we have that nurturing of the data. I know exactly what is the avatar looking like. And by the time they catch up with me, they have to at least do it for 6 months. And only for 6 months, they have to do it properly, right? So that's where you can really tap into these opportunities. So yeah, here just a quick breakdown of how the customer acquisition cost was so much lower CPC, the amount of impression we managed to achieve, and the extension of audiences that essentially we managed to do with this kind of ads. So yeah, it's essentially a no-brainer when it comes to really at least exploring it, because I would say first you have to open the conversation. That's why I offer this free audit. How big is the audience? Like how many people could potentially reach? And then based on your price point and what your competition is doing, which we can break down for you at no extra cost, maybe this is the thing that you need really to get out of the cycle of running PPC at a high CPC. That's not going to make you profitable, right? So I guess I want to use the last few minutes to also open up from some Q&A. But yeah, guys, that's everything from me. And of course, now I'm going to tap as much as possible on all the
Excellent.
questions. Yeah.
Thank you, Vincenzo. Super informative training. I see there's already a question from Ronnie. So now's your chance. If you have any specific questions, feel free to drop them in the chat or unmute yourself. So, and also I'd like to just highlight again, Vincenzo's offering a special free mini audit for your brand to find out your audience size, to get more insights. They're going to do like a quick audit. They're going to put together a PDF slide deck and send it to you all for free. You can get the link in that I put in the chat. For those of you guys watching the replay, the link will be in the YouTube description below. All right. And then he's only going to offer it for a limited time. I mean, like this is not going to be forever. So make sure you grab that. All right. So Ronnie had a question.
I wanted to answer the question sharing my screen actually.
Okay, so let me just read the question first, so just everyone knows. Ronnie's question is, when the customer clicks, does it have to go to a listing, or we can send it to a store page as well?
Yeah, so essentially you can customize where it goes, but in this case, so all of you can see it in action. I'm on a blog. This is the top 10 kind of supplements. I think vitamin C. Then I go here. A supplement about hair, right? So now the reason why this could be showing to me is because I buy a lot of supplements, and some of those supplements have to do with hair. So that's why this ad showed to me. If I click on it, look at what happened. And by the way, I can customize this image, the title, and all of this. If I click, do you see how it takes me to Amazon? So that's DSP, essentially. You see, you're on a website that has nothing to do with Amazon. This is a blog. And some other ads might show here, like nice from Mercedes, MailChimp. This is another DSP ad. If I click on it, look. Now, because I did that, most likely that's going to happen. I'm going to start seeing this pro all over the place, because now they're going to retarget me and follow me around, which is what we do with our clients. But that's DSP. Like when people are browsing online, they're doing other groceries, they're reading the newspaper, we constantly show your product in front of them, because we know they're interested or they have shown some kind of interest, and we compare them. So that's something that with traditional ads, you're never going to be able to do. Yeah.
Interesting. And then there's no Amazon branding or anything on that ad, right? It's just straight your own brand, right?
But you know why? Because this one is the customizable one. Remember I told you have the basic ones, that's only the Amazon logo and all of that, and your listing. These guys look at how much thought they're putting. They have a custom image, they have a
Hmm.
custom message that people wouldn't even suspect this is Amazon. This is the best way of doing DSP, because when sometimes people see the Amazon logo, they might
Hmm.
get off because maybe they think, they're being pitched or whatever, or
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
they don't want to go for Amazon for a reason. But
Hmm.
now they are blinded, like they don't see it's Amazon. Once they are here, oh,
Hmm.
actually it's not that bad. I should buy it. And then they are here,
Yeah,
add to cart. You see what I
cool. Yeah,
mean?
it's
Yeah.
cool for brand awareness as well.
Hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So
Which are questions, guys?
yeah, so going back to Ronnie's question, can it go to a store page as well, or is it just an
Yeah.
individual listing? It can go to store
Yeah.
page, right?
You can customize it. And again, on the example I gave as well, if you are committing to big spend, you could also run that to effectively your website, but that's only for specific beta users that get into that program. But for most people, it's gonna go. Most people do it for the product page, because to be honest, that's usually the best way of doing it, because what you want to do is you want to tailor the specific ad to a specific product based on the behavior around that product. Now, if you want to do more a campaign that has to do about brand and you don't care about profit, then maybe yes, we run ads that run to the overall brand rather than a specific product. But most people want to focus on sales.
Yeah. So I'm looking at the questions for the people that pre-submitted questions for RSVPs. One of the biggest challenges with Amazon advertising right now is just reducing wasted ad spend, decreasing ads wasted, maintaining profitability, lower tacos. Given the new option for DSP right now, how should a brand approach this this strategy to make it more profitable, reduce waste ad spend?
Yeah, so I would say the way of doing it the most profitable is usually when we start doing DSP, we try to start with an insight about the brand and doing an in-depth analysis using AI and insights from you as the founders. So based on past experiences, what kind of audiences you think would work the best, and essentially we start the ground running with things that a lot of times our DSP advertisers might not do, which is they go into automatic mode, they see what happens, and then they start refining. We from day one already have some pre-refinement done, and then that's how we maximize our return on investment. And then from there, we're very proactive. We make sure we identify audiences, we identify patterns, and then from there, we just make sure that we just have a very brief kind of exploration phase, but then we just start to scale the kind of journeys and audiences that are converted significantly as much as possible until we see that we cannot scale it anymore, and then we start tapping into our audiences as well. Yeah.
Excellent. We have a question from Hildur. If I was going to give DSP a try, how many months should I try it for? And what KPIs should I watch to determine that it does not work for me? After all, DSP cannot be right for everyone, or is it?
Yeah, so I would say at least 3 months, for the main reason that month one is set up with the campaigns and the audiences and everything. So month one, nothing's gonna happen. Month two, we're gonna identify patterns and we're gonna see what works and what doesn't work. And month three is scaling those patterns. So by month three, you start already seeing if the DSP is not for you, because if by month three we don't see traction going the right direction, that means practically it could not be the right fit. And to answer your question, when it's not the right fit, DSP sometimes not the right fit when we see that with traditional kind of ads, we're effectively already kind of controlling the category to a point that people don't really need kind of like an awareness phase to make a decision. Gonna make it very, very easy for you. For example, let's say you're selling like toilet paper. I'm gonna make it very simple. Toilet paper is something that you don't need awareness phase. You just need the toilet paper and you buy on the spot. Like you don't need to be nurtured around the product. With traditional ads, you can essentially just tap it to that specific moment that you need toilet paper, and people go to Amazon and buy it. You don't need to be touched with a toilet paper ad while you're reading a newspaper. Like that might be more strategic to controlling the market, which is something we have done with big brands, like for example with Energizer, Disney, Nickelodeon, like all these brands. Yes, it's all about showing off that they can be anywhere. So that's another discussion altogether. But if your goal is sales, like it depends of if it's more an impulse buy or people need consideration. And KPIs goes back to the same point. Like KPIs, if it's all about awareness, it's about impressions, and if it's essentially as many touch points as possible. If it's about profitability, it's all about new to brand metrics and how they're converting to ROAS. Because new to brand, I would say if you have to choose one, it's the most important metric, because new to brand essentially tells you what kind of a what is the type of audience that you are able to tap with DSP that it will never see your brand otherwise. That means people that comes to you thanks to a DSP ad. That I would say the easiest way to define success with DSP, because if those are people that haven't seen you before, that means if you never did this DSP in the first place, they wouldn't even know that you exist. So yeah.
All right. And a follow-up question from Josh. What I was asking previously was using Amazon for DSP versus using DSP for someone's own site. Do you have any statistics for this? Is it taboo at all for people to see an ad showing that it's going to be an Amazon product listing? It seems that now you can give more of a custom ad, not showing that it's going to an Amazon page. But for the ones that do that, does that matter?
Yeah, so I mean, just to go back to on websites. So just to make it clear again, you can, let's say you have a website, like say you have toys.com and it's your website like your Shopify. You cannot run DSP ads on your own website if that's what you're asking. Just to get that out of the way, right? The second thing is to answer the things of if it shows Amazon or custom content. Um, it also depends a lot on the convenience. Why? Because let's say you're selling a product that usually you want the convenience of delivery, like you want next day and all of that. Sometimes we use ads that show Amazon and Prime delivery, because we know for a fact by doing the research, most of our competitors don't offer Prime or fast delivery. So that's where sometimes you want to show the loyalty behind brand. But if it's more an ad, for example, it's more like a luxury product, more in like $30 to $50. Sometimes we don't want to put Amazon there because we want to give more a branding experience if we already have a presence out of Amazon as well. So that's where the conversation goes. Are you a pure Amazon seller? If that's the case, usually we show Amazon. If it's a brand that goes beyond Amazon, we might just essentially have our creative very clean and not show Amazon. So that's usually what we try to do. Yeah. Mhm.
Okay.
Hopefully that
Excellent.
answered the question. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. Thank you. All right. We're just about out of time. If there's any last minute questions, please let me know. I will again put the link for the free DSP mini audit if you want to book a call with Vincenzo and his team at Ecomcy. They can give you a free mini DSP audit about your brand so you can find out how big your audience is. They'll give you a PDF analysis. If you have any questions, email them business@ecomcy.com. All right.
Yep.
So,
You can also scan here if you want to make it easier. Yeah.
or you can scan the QR code on screen. All right. So I'm all about the 80/20 rule, Vincenzo. I know we've covered a lot today, about DSP. If you were to distill everything down, what would be the 80/20 number one recommendation you'd like to leave everybody with today?
So I would say the 80/20 rule is at the end of the day, when it comes to DSP, you have to understand that actually 100% reflects that rule, because what is going to happen is you're going to end up finding that 20% interaction within the audience that's going to give you 80% of the revenue. And that goes back to my case study. Like we spent 10 times less than PPC, but because we found that perfect avatar, we managed to do significant better results that are traditional PPC. But in order for you to find that hidden gem or that hidden interaction, you have to essentially give it a try and explore it. So that's where I would say is something that you have to go back and essentially have a thought about. It's like if you feel you're stuck with PPC, it's getting very expensive. You're not really getting the results. Like sometimes you have to try something else. Like I remember this quote by Einstein. I'm gonna finish with that. Like definition of craziness is trying to do the same thing over and over again and expect different results. So if you're doing that with PPC and you just finding yourself in the same loop over and over, that a lot of times trying things such as DSP could be the solution. So definitely don't miss the opportunity on that before the competition does. So.
Yeah, I love that. Definition of craziness is doing the same thing over and over again, expect the same results. You got guys, it's 2025, the whole marketplace is changing. We know it's more competitive, and DSP, I mean, it could be an unlock because previously only the big brands could use it. They're attacking you. Now you can fight back, right? For Vincenzo, for the brands that want to use it, is this something they can do themselves, or do they have to go through like an agency like Ecomcy to use
I
DSP?
mean, The only way that you can do DSP is by a number of methods. So one is through a software solution, which I don't recommend because, as I say, it's a black box. You don't really know what is happening. It's pre-made templates and pre-made audiences, and you cannot really tap significantly into it. The second one is getting a seat yourself. So if somebody here in the room, you can commit to 100,000 per month on Amazon. First of all, congrats! Like that's a huge milestone, and that means you can do DSP on your own. And the third one is with an agency like us that we have our direct seat with Amazon because, of course, we by combining all the spend that we do with Amazon, which is our 7 figures in DSP alone, so we can essentially bring your brand into our seat and run DSP for you. And that's why
Perfect.
we can make it as affordable as possible. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Excellent. So if you are interested, definitely connect with Vincenzo. And thank you so much, Vincenzo. I learned a lot. I'm sure everyone else did too. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Good luck with DSP and keep us posted how it goes. And we'll see you guys at the next session. Bye, everybody.
Take care, guys. Thank you. Bye bye. Pleasure.